Chef Dennis was pretty much invented by a friend of mine. I mean, I have been a chef for a good part of my life, but when it came time to name my blog, I hadn't really taken the persona on. And then this woman sent me this cold call like email saying, oh, you should be Ask Chef Dennis, you need to be this, yada, yada, yada. You do so much for people, they always come to you with questions. So that was how I became branded as Chef Dennis. I mean, it was nothing really that I did, but it was someone else's idea. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I've always been Chef Dennis, but never as a persona, So that's how my brand became. I started out old school as an apprentice to master chefs, and I worked with master chefs in the kitchen. And I'd had some culinary experience prior to that, but I really didn't talk too much about that. I had some training, but I went in and I let them kind of teach me how to do and mold me. And I started reading every cookbook I could get my hands on. I mean, at that time I lived in New Jersey, and I went to the county library, and they were getting them from all the different satellites for me to read. And I would just keep reading cookbooks and reading cookbooks and reading cookbooks and looking at recipes. And that's kind of how I learned. And then we had butchers, and the butchers taught me how to cut meat and how to take a leg of veal down. And I just learned my trade over the course of time. My earliest childhood memory, which is probably my earliest memory too, involves frozen waffles and a toaster, and me climbing up on a little step stool to go to them. But the important part of that story was a toaster wasn't plugged in. So I made frozen waffles, and I'm pretty sure I ate frozen waffles. Okay, but that's my earliest memory of food. I think the moment that hit me the most was I cooked for Alison Krauss of Union Station. And, I would not know if that was the proudest moment, but in my cooking career, she was behind me in the kitchen. I came in to cook just for them because I was going to their concert. And then 3 times from the stage, they talked to me during the concert. They recognized me and said, Chef Dennis, are you here? We had the best meal tonight, stand up. They had me stand up, and, so that was kind of a moment where I had done something. When I started blogging for my culinary students so they'd have a place to find recipes and do different things. And it kind of evolved, and I became a legitimate blogger, when I started having readers all over the world. So that's kind of what spawned it. That was, I wasn't Chef Dennis yet. I wasn't Ask Chef Dennis. And then I got this letter, and things started to roll, and things started to progress, and the brand started to grow. And, we always have these delusions of grandeur, that we were going to be the next pioneer woman and the best thing that there was in the blogging world, and it's really never going to happen again. But you try to find areas to succeed in, and you try to find areas to be competent in, and that you can kind of lead in. And it's hard to lead in everything to get to that point. So my life is, while I tackle one aspect of blogging, certain social media, I try to not master it, but get very good at it. And then I move to another segment, and then I work on that. So it's never ending. It's being a blogger is like painting a bridge. By the time you get done learning one skill set, either the skill set is obsolete or something new has popped up. So, I always tell people, if I had known what was going into this when I started, I probably would have found another hobby to do. But now, I am Chef Dennis. So, I am Batman, I am Chef Dennis, and I couldn't think of doing anything else. So, I love what I do. Well, I think what I try to do, and what I've always tried to do in my cooking career when I was teaching, was teach people that it's not rocket science. It's food we're talking about. And to not have a fear about food, and to not look at a recipe and think, oh, I have to make it exactly as it is. This is the gospel. It's not. It's adapting a recipe and learning how to make things that you like to make and that you like to eat. Because if you enjoy what you're making, you're going to make it more often. And time in the kitchen has to be fun. So, that's where I take pride in my greatest influence. I'm a social media influencer, that and $3 to get me a cup of coffee. So it doesn't mean as much to me, but influencing people. And when I get emails, especially with my tiramisu, I'll get emails from people all over the world, and they'll say, I made this for my Sicilian grandfather, he cried. It's like things like that makes it all worthwhile. So someone will write to me and say, I made your dish, I loved it. Someone just wrote to me and they said that was her husband said it was the best thing she ever made, and she just raved about the recipe. So when I get those, then I've done my job. I'm helping people to eat better and to demystify it a little bit. And it all comes down to enjoying what you do. And so many people, like my mother, hated to cook, which is why I love to eat, apparently, which is how I really ended up in the kitchen. So, and my first role model was Graham Kerr, the Galloping Gourmet. And he would come in flamboyant and have a glass of wine. Of course, I was I think 12, so I wasn't thinking about the glass of wine. But I would watch how he made things and how the people would moan when they tasted them. And I'm going, damn, this is what a way to make a living. If you can make people that happy through something. And that's been the gift that I have had throughout my career, was being able to make people happy through food. The blog opened up a lot of areas actually for me to start going out and meeting other people in the industry. The first steps I took to conferences and getting to meet other people that I had known on the internet but never met face to face. And it kind of expanded my thinking. It made me see what other people were doing, and when you can talk to them firsthand is a lot different than just reading their blogs or seeing what they're doing or looking at their pictures. So that really makes you think. There is a world out there, and this is, we're finishing up my 9th year as a blogger. So, it's, and I was just thinking of writing a post, and I was going to call it 10 years before the mast, but, so something like that. But you become, as I became a blogger, and I started learning other things, and the opportunities that started to come were to go to restaurants and to talk to the chef, and I started doing some chef interviews. And up north, nobody has time to talk to you. And I never got in to see anybody. Nobody had time. If you had 5 minutes, you were lucky, and they might not even look up at you the whole time they were talking to you. When I came to Florida, it was like, oh, come in. Let's talk for 3 hours. Let's keep feeding you. Would you like something else? Put another rack of lamb on. Where am I? And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what is this place? And everybody's happy and everybody's friendly. So, I started to meet more chefs. I started to see more people in the industry, and they were happy chefs. They weren't like up north where they were the staunch, professional, Austrian. Well, nobody's German anymore. They're Austrian. Okay, Austrian chefs. And it's like, they were really talented, but no personalities. And here, as they're talented, they have personalities, and that really is what started to fuel my thinking for what I was doing. And I met a very influential person that influenced my life greatly. Probably had the most influence on my career is Bess Auer. And Bess kind of pointed me in a direction and made me a travel blogger. So I have her to thank for everything that I've done from that point on. She gave me the little push, and it's like, why can't you do it? I'm like, okay, I guess I can. Chef Dennis, how do you cook goat? And I'm like, I've never cooked goat, but let me Google it for you, because I used to get upset and go, really? You're asking me that? And I go, wait a minute, ask Chef Dennis. Okay, how do we cook? So I'll have to Google 12 recipes to get a good idea. Then I come back to them and tell them how to cook goat. And that's something that it's one of the gifts I have, is I can look at a recipe, and if I look at enough of them, I may never have made it before in my life, have absolutely no idea what it's supposed to taste like, but I understand from looking at the different techniques, the different spices, the different way they're cooking it, how to do it. So then I can go in and make it, and it's reasonably good when I make it. So it's like, I don't know how I do it, but I do it. So people can find me at askchefdennis.com. And if you just type that into your menu bar, or if you Google Ask Chef Dennis, I'll come up. On Instagram, I'm Ask Chef Dennis. On Facebook, Ask Chef Dennis. On LinkedIn, on Pinterest, on Tumblr, on just about any place that has a social media, I am Ask Chef Dennis, except Google Plus, and I am Chef Dennis Littley there. But no one goes there anymore but me, so that's okay.